Good morning. The State Board of Education is called to order. I notice that all members are present. You have the agenda before you. A motion would be in order to approve today's agenda. Ben makes that motion and Melanie seconds that motion. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries and passes. And now we are excited to be able to honor some Millikan Educator Award recipients. And Denise, I believe you're going to make the introductions. Welcome.
That is me. Well, good morning. Yes, we've got a couple of fun things this morning for you after coming off your later evening that you had last night. So this morning I get to introduce our Millikan Award winners. We actually had two named this year, or for 2021, because we, of course, with the pandemic in 2020, did not get to get out and do this. So I'm very excited to introduce them both to you this morning. With me today is Megan Morgan. She currently serves as a library media specialist at Oliver Brown Elementary School in Manhattan. But prior to that, she transformed the library at Ogden Elementary School into the hub of student life and learning. Morgan earned her bachelor's in elementary education and master's in special education from Kansas State University, and a master's in library science from Emporia State University. With Megan this morning is Ryan Pfeiffer. He is a science teacher at Washburn Rural High School right here in Topeka. He is known for always being open to new teaching strategies. If there is a chance, they might increase student achievement. Ryan earned a bachelor's in biology education from Kansas State University and his master's in education from Baker University, and they are here to kind of tell you what's going on in their world that makes them such an exceptional educator. So we're glad to have them. Megan, you want to start?
Well, welcome. We thank you for being here. Congratulations, and we're excited to hear from you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's such a great honor to be here with all of you. As you've heard, my name is Megan Morgan, and I am the Library Media Specialist at Oliver Brown Elementary in Manhattan. Being a recipient of the Millikan National Educator Award has been such an incredible experience in my career. As I told the staff and students at my school on the day that I was surprised with the award, it is truly humbling to be recognized for doing what I love. I am passionate about education, and it's that passion that drives what I do in my library classroom every day. My kindergarten through third grade students, I hook them with curiosity. I teach them to be observant and to question, to think critically about the world around them, and then I equip them with the information literacy skills that they need to gain knowledge and understanding while incorporating 21st century technology skills. These foundational skills are what my fourth and fifth grade students use to explore their own passion through personalized project-based learning opportunities in which they become experts on a topic that is important to them. They become active citizens in school, local, and global communities by creating projects that inform or impact issues by exploring and addressing what we need to improve our world. And students choose a topic to research and to teach others about, or an issue that they want to work to impact others. Through these projects, they discover their own interests, they explore career opportunities, and they begin making plans for their future. They practice the skills needed to write formal reports or requests for materials or supplies, and to ask for assistance in their project, communicating with school staff and community members to schedule meetings to gather their information and the resources needed to complete their projects. I tell my students daily that they are important, that they matter, and that each one of them can make a difference in our world if they are observant and they follow their heart and their passions, just like I have for education. So for me, taking my passion for teaching and for education and showing students that if they follow their own passions, they can change the world like I have through my students in my classroom. So thank you so much.
And thank you. And congratulations.
Hi, my name's Ryan Pfeiffer. I teach biology, Honors Bio 2, IB Bio 1, and IB Bio 2 at Washburn Rural High School. I'm also the science department chair, so oversee all things science programming at the high school. I wanted to talk about two things that I feel are incredibly important in my classroom, also within the department. And they're not new topics or new modes of instruction, but one of them is the flipped classroom. I 100% attribute all of the success for my students to the flipped classroom. And if you're not familiar with that, it's where we flip instruction. So I make online videos that I post on YouTube, have a very small YouTube channel. The kids get a bigger kick out of it than I do because they think I'm a YouTuber and I'm not. But they're tasked with watching online lectures at home, and then they come to class with the knowledge ready to extend and elaborate and apply the content in a way that they couldn't do otherwise if I was lecturing to them in class. The year after we implemented that, about 6 years ago, the student achievement on our common assessments went up 10%, which was a letter grade, which was significant, we felt, in the department. And so we've got several teachers in the department that are using that. There are teachers around the state and world and our country that are doing that as well. It's not as widely, I guess, applied as I think it should be because it is so effective. Another benefit of that is that it allows us to do more of the in-class, hands-on lab component to science education, which I think is fundamental to our understanding of science and the way science works. And so the second thing that I wanted to talk about was the importance of authentic instruction, or the importance of authentic experimentation. So I give our kids kind of free reign in a variety of ways in my classroom to the lab and to all things equipment. And at Washburn Rural, we're really blessed with a pretty sizable budget and a pretty good equipment list. And so the kids really do, gain exposure to gel electrophoresis and PCR and all these really high-tech biotech lab components. But I've had students in the past that will design experiments around seed germination rates, plant growth rates, hormone feedback mechanisms, evolution. I had a student that looked at trying to determine if she could get an antibiotic resistance to show up within a bacteria colony over the course of 10 generations, and she was successful in that. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that if we expose kids to the field of science and give them free reign in the lab and allow them to make science connections and apply what they're learning, I think that it's going to stick and it's going to allow them to achieve at higher levels. And I've seen that at least internally in our common assessment. So I've reached out to kids that I've had in class that are now in college. One of them, I got her permission to tell her story. She entered my class as a freshman in my Honors Bio 1 class. She had some learning disabilities. She was not one that was kind of the typical student for an honors track and a college preparatory track like I typically teach. With working with her, she ended up entering our IB program, which is one of the most rigorous programs we have at the high school. She struggled early, but she credits a lot of the success she found to not only the flipped classroom, but allowing her the opportunity to do the hands-on scientific work that I talked about. She just reached out to me, which is why I'm using her as an example. She's at the University of Nebraska right now, actually pursuing a medical degree in speech language hearing. And she, like I said, wanted to thank me and attribute a lot of what she now sees in terms of success to those two areas of instruction. So it works. I have data for that, and I wish other people would use that like I've used it. So thank you.
Thank you. How big is the department? You say you're the department chair. How many?
Yeah, we've got 16 members.
And are you encouraging them to follow the same pattern?
Yeah, and we're getting there. We've got members that are full flipped where, I haven't lectured in traditional sense to my kids in probably 6 years. They come in, they know my expectation is that they come in having been exposed and done the things at home. And so we get in and we do a lot of things that are writing and hands-on and applying the content and extending. I like to get to a deeper, DOK or higher DOK. So. But we have members that are more blended, where they give lectures, but they maybe do it more in the classroom. So they're able to float around and help individual students in a more one-on-one with tasks while kids watch videos and do the things afterwards within the classroom, which is kind of the way the flipped classroom's going. It's kind of transitioning to the blended model, but it's allowing for teachers to be one-on-one with students.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Questions or comments from board members? Ann and Betty.
Well, congratulations. That's amazing. I'm so happy to have quality teachers and professionals that, can share your stories. And I'll just say, Ryan's come a long way. I was telling him, I think the last time I saw him, because he grew up behind me, is like this tall. So, and he really proud of what you've become, and both of you. Just thank you so much for being out there for the kids.
Thank you.
Betty.
Thank you. And, it's just so exciting to hear an innovative approach. And I think that is what a lot of our students are struggling with. There's a different way that you can teach. And so to hear this, I just was feeling so energetic because it's so important that we look at the many different ways that students can learn and just not be stuck in just a traditional box. So that was exciting to hear. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Dina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to congratulate both of you and thank you for your passion, your innovation that will hopefully drive others to know that they too can change the way that students get to learn in most places, the traditional way, I guess. So I want to say thank you for bringing to us new, exciting ways of dealing with the same curriculum, and hearing that students have responded in a very positive way, in the way that we would like for them to, is another big plus. So thanks again for being here and sharing with us.
Thank you. Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to put you guys on the spot. If you could change one thing in Kansas education as a whole, big question, I could already see the fear on the face, right? What would it be? What's the one thing that you think we could change and do better as a state?
So I'm very much in the high school and secondary ed. And so I'm very unfamiliar, honestly, with the elementary levels. But I have a few teachers in the department that have elementary kids, and so I hear through them, and I have family members that are also elementary teachers. And from my perspective, whether it's an individual district decision or it's a state decision, it seems like in a lot of cases, science specifically, at the elementary level is valued less than some other things, or a lot of times the science minutes are taken up by some other things like literacy, and I get that those are important, but I think as a whole, if we want to get kids starting to think critically and doing the science and engineering practices and thinking through new situations and working through adversities and looking within the context of a scientific methodology, I think that we need to value and place more emphasis on science at a younger age, in my opinion. And it already is, it's a core subject area, and I guess that's just me maybe being biased, right? But I think science is fundamental to our understanding of the world, and so I think that it needs to be emphasized maybe a little more.
Well, as the librarian and the literacy expert in my building, I will back Ryan 100%. It's not teaching each subject as a silo. It's integrating the subjects together, teaching that science through literacy, literature, looking at nonfiction texts so that they can learn more about those science topics. What's more motivating than reading about exciting topics in science, and then from there doing the hands-on projects, a lot of project-based learning, getting students hands-on, what you heard both Ryan and I talk about, getting them excited about learning through project-based learning and personalized learning, because our students are all so different that you can't just lecture to a group of students and think that every student's going to get it, because they all learn in such different ways. And so being able to personalize the learning, bring in the hands-on and the project base, and then integrating all of the subject areas into more of a blended learning, not just it's time for math, it's time for science, it's time for reading. It's bringing it all together so that they see how all of those different things tie together. And it's not learning in silos, it's learning as it all interweaves throughout the world.
I appreciate that, and those are really good answers. And Mrs. Arnold, I want to put out to you that we did hear ways to improve at a board meeting based on your comments from yesterday. But thank you for what you do. I know you're sometimes overwhelmed, like, I don't deserve this, if you're like me. Like, I don't know why I got this, but you're representative of what's good in education. And so often we hear, what's bad or how we fail. And the challenging students, I am long-term subbing this semester, and every day I'm in a classroom with another teacher like, how do we get this concept taught better, or how do we do this better? Now I'm on doing K2 math, which is a little bit different and outside my realm. I was trained as a music educator, so doing elementary math is different. But we constantly talk about how to better academics, and I know you guys talk about it all the time in terms of that. So I appreciate what you do. You're representative of where you're from and who got you there. A lot of people got you there, and you're going to get other people there. And we appreciate it. This is an honor to the profession and honor to you. So congratulations. Very proud of you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
So congratulations. It's such a fun moment, to be with you. What have you learned from the Milken experience since that day, and being now a part of the Milken, family, and really kind of what we call the K-Toy family of, Milken, Teachers of the Year, Teachers of Promise, Horizon Award winners. Can you just speak to that and maybe what you even see going forward?
So I would say my biggest takeaway from the experience is just the networking and the connections that I've made since then. We both signed up for a Milken Friend Forever, which is kind of like a mentor program. And so I met him at the conference in LA, and it's Kirk Brown. And so he oversees the Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes in DC. But he was a past bio teacher, past science department chair, past biotech teacher. And so I felt like me and him had a lot of things in common. And so he's already, got me introduced to a lot of people at BioRad and science teacher associations, bio teacher associations. And so for me, those were connections that I didn't even really know existed, because I just got so ingrained in my school and trying to connect with my department members and members of our local middle schools and trying to vertically align and stuff like that. So the power of multi-networking, even out of state, out of district, is important, and one of those things that I definitely will continue to do.
For me, I'm passionate about teaching the students and being in the classroom with the students, and being awarded the Milken Award, I definitely felt unworthy at first, because I was just doing what I do. I go into work and I'm loving inspiring the kids and getting them excited, and that's just what I do. And so going to the Milken Forum in June, I really learned the power of my voice and my ability to advocate for the profession. I learned that what I do isn't what everybody does. And so being able to inspire other teachers to do what I do and to say, like, hey, I do some things that are really special that can really elevate our profession. And so I'm working with my Milken Friend Forever to take what I do and share it, and not just keep it in my classroom, in my school, in my district, but expand to teaching other teachers in our state and in our nation what I do, what I'm finding success in, and sharing it with others so that we can elevate the profession as a whole and not just my wonderful group of 300 students that I'm working with right now. So I'm very excited about that, and it's definitely been an energizing experience to learn that, wow, like I can really, truly take this to the next level and impact our whole profession, which is really cool.
Well, again, we congratulate you and thank you. We have certificates. Unfortunately, they do not replicate the milk and check. Unfortunately, we are unable to do that. But we'd like to have an opportunity to have our picture taken with you, if you would honor us with that. And if you will do it right here, I will get the certificates, we'll do it right here. And I would like the board members that represent you, Dina, you represent Manhattan, don't you? Okay, so Dina and Ann will be in the middle, and the rest of us will fill in if we can just do that right now. And we'll meet right here. Denise,
Yes, sir. So,
another exciting adventure.
yes, as you all recall, I guess it's been 2 years now, you agreed to, I know, 2 years. You all agreed to put some of your ESSER funds towards a really special project that you all identified as needing some. We wanted to really work on summer learning extend our summer learning, and we wanted to encourage family engagement in that summer learning. And out of that came the Sunflower Summer Program, as you all are aware. So we just completed our second year of it, and needless to say, it's been very, very well received. So this has been a really good thing that this board has approved and worked on. So this morning, we've got several people here that are going to be presenting about this. We have Michael Kuntz. He is the Director of Administrative Services at Greenbush Education Center. With Michael, we have Janine Haran, who is the Research Project Director for the Center for Public Partnerships and Research. Janine and her team were really the ones that came together, put this, contacted all the venues. They did the heavy lifting on this and have done an amazing job with it. Michael has worked with each of the venues to work on the administrative side, making sure everybody gets paid, which is very important as well. With Michael and Janine then, we have Sherry Rivey. She's Recreational Trails Coordinator, AmeriCorps Director for the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. There she is right here. And then we have Adam Smith, who is the President and CEO for Exploration Place. We appreciate him being here. He has a very busy schedule, so he fit us in on that, and I appreciate him very much. And then we're going to follow up that presentation with a really special comments from Miss Lori Kirsten and her grandson Parker, who is 7 years old, who really enjoyed the program. And Parker got to get out of school for a little while today, so we're really excited to hear from him. So we're going to start out with Michael and Janine that are going to give you an overview of how the program went this year.
You ready?
I am.
All right. Well, we're excited to be here today. This has been such an incredible program to work on together. This is our first time meeting in person, over an 18-month period. So phone calls and Zooms and all the things. But we're excited to bring you some highlights and some summaries of this. And we're really looking forward to Parker as well. So
To everybody. Okay, so our job is set this up. What in the world, how do we put this together, and where have we been with that over the last couple of years? This was an idea that started with an advisory group of teachers and chaired by a woman named Diane Smokrowski. And they were taking a look at what are the trends, what are we experiencing here with the pandemic after that, particularly after that first year, and noticing pandemic has been detrimental impact on student performance. Our parental engagement is harder. You know, we're dropping kids off at the door. They're not able to come in, et cetera. And we have two things that we would like to promote in order to address these issues. And so that is promoting student learning during the summer months. We don't want to see this drop off. And also encouraging families and all the adults associated with the children to get involved in their education with them. The bonus in the way that this came together is that the program also brings families out into the community and into the venues, which were also suffering most particularly at that time, and so encouraging that in-state travel and tourism was really important. Hope I pushed the right button. Yes. So there are three core elements to this program. The first, of course, is the students. And our students are all students enrolled in a pre-K to 12th grade program. That might be private and parochial, that might be homeschool, that might be public schools, but it's for any Kansas student that falls into that age range. And then there is the way to distribute or to explore the venues that are providing the experiences for us. And that was really interesting. We started with 71 the first year. The number that you see on the screen is 90, so it is growing. We have 12 on a waiting list for what may be to come. And these are our museums, our parks, our zoos, our libraries, all of our local and regional attractions. We worked with tourism both years to go out, find the child and family-friendly sites and offer to them the opportunity to participate in the program. I want shout out to these folks. This is a group that has been attentive to detail, flexible, really quick on the draw that first year, and continually provides input for here, I think I can provide lift this way, can we do this? And here's another idea for you. They keep us in touch with the people who are coming to their venues. So really important component of what we're doing. The third component of the program overall is the mobile app that is being used to create the interface between the students and the venues. It's a way for us to really promote, I guess, and to share what's available for people. It is a way for us to feel confident about the reporting on the program across a statewide program with numbers like what we're seeing. We know at some point we are filing reports with the funder, and that is the federal government, and we want to be sure that we are clean and accurate on that. It's also efficiency and a common entry methodology for all of our venues so that it allows us to do our training once and to have everybody do it the same way makes it easy for those who go to more than one venue as well, so it becomes familiar to people. We work with a mobile app company called Slickit. They really very quickly put this up for us the first year, and it has been reliable. And they do all of our technical user support. They also have the relationships with the Google and Apple app stores, which is an incredibly important relationship to mobilizing that app. And so to their creativity, their quick response, the energy that they bring, Slickit is also a very important element here. Okay. So looking at that right-hand side of the screen, or whichever side that is for you, we have 90 total venues in 2022. You can see the number of the specific venues there by the categories that they are presented on the app. There are the big five, I would say, tend to be larger organizations. They tend to be the more typically expensive organizations for families to visit. And so Exploration Place, Sedgwick County Zoo, the Field Station Dinosaurs, the Cosmosphere and Botanica are the venues that see the greatest number of visitors. I will also say that 100% of our venues see Sunflower Summer visitors, and it ranges from 1,000 visitors to many, many thousands of visitors. And the other thing I'd like to note is that we are tracking this predominantly by the app. So we know from the geo connections on the app when somebody goes to a specific venue. That helps us with our ticketing, but that also helps us to track who's attending where. And in many of our outdoor areas, the cell service is not so great, or people turn off their phones. And so you see those numbers there on the 33 outdoor venues, and I don't know that that's what comes up on the app, but there's many more than that. Program reach.
So reach is really important. How do we make sure that students and families can maximize these opportunities? And we're really proud to be able to share with you and with everyone that for the 2022 Sunflower Summer, we had representation from families in all counties across Kansas. When we look at a measure or a metric of school districts, 285 of the 286 school districts participated. We also were able to serve approximately 17,000 students, I believe, through parochial private schools as well. And then you'll notice here on the right, 118,000 individual students, but at the bottom, 121,000 total student venue visits. And what the data tells us with that is that there were some repeat attendees. That's why the numbers are different. But about 97% of the total number of attendees went to one attraction. So when we think about reach, this isn't the same few thousand families going to multiple places, and that's how the numbers get racked up. We had 118,000 individual student visits from across the state, representative of nearly every school district, several parochial and private schools, homeschools, et cetera, and all counties in Kansas, which is just incredible in terms of reach. This is a really exciting program and one that can be a challenge to communicate. With Greenbush, we work with several school districts all across Kansas, and one of the things we tried to do just to help principals and superintendents communicate this opportunity to their families is that we provided some template language. We worked with KSDE, we worked with Janine, and made sure that we kept it simple, that we guided people to the places they needed to go to be able to access the app and download that and get out there and have some fun. So it was just a great opportunity to collaborate and get that message out to families through schools as well.
So this is how we track the program throughout the course. It's each week. The weeks for us run Monday through Sunday, which is typical for the venues. And you see in our first year the growth and the 71,228 total visitors to the 71 participating venues over last year. We had one bonus event last year, and I'm excited to hear Sherry's presentation here. That was with the Kansas Wildlife and Parks Department. They did a family overnight experience. That is a amazing experience, and both years our families tell us this is it for us. This is our summer vacation. We are very excited to be doing this, and the parks really roll it out for that program. So it is exceptional.
So keep in mind with year one, this was summer of 2021. We did not really start until that first week of July and then ran till about first part mid-August. As we drift into year two, you're going to see some additions here.
Yeah.
And we'll go with that. So first of all, we expanded the time frame. Okay, so we began nearly after Memorial Day weekend. Thank you. We began at that Memorial Day weekend. We still ran through that mid-August point, and you can just see the numbers completely just be astounding. So we had 4 additional weeks in year 2 or summer of 2022. We know folks were able to mobilize a little bit and even plan some field trip groups, whether it's through their school or organization. We know we had one of at least 50 go to one of the locations together. We, as Janine has mentioned, we moved from 71 venues up to 90, and then we even added some additional bonus events this year. We offered 6 weeks of 2-day academy camps for students grades K through 8. We partnered with Greenbush in Lawrence in southeast Kansas and ran educational camps from 9 to 3, 5 days a week. We had some overnight opportunities as well, and our high school students got to experience some STEM activities at Independence Community College in their Fab Lab. So just we were able to add a variety of events, and they were all full all the time in those bonus events that we added as well.
Yeah, I'd like to mention a couple of those special events that were particularly good for us from the perspective of geographic reach and celebration. The Dodge City 150th anniversary was a free event, but that was an important milestone, and we worked together with them to identify and promote through the app their celebration. The Tri-State Antique Engine and Thresher Show in Bird City is a large event there, and we were able to really again, help promote and to bring people into that event. And the Wichita Wind Surge baseball team have a museum, and they talk about baseball history, and they talk about things like how you establish an ERA and what does an ERA mean and other kinds of math and science related things to baseball. And so they created some special events around that. They called them Sunflower Sundays, and that was also very popular and drew from a pretty broad geographic range. Ready?
Yep, absolutely. From a financial standpoint, we'll start on the right-hand side. When we began the program for summer of 2021, you'll notice there was an allocation available of about $1.2 million, and of that, roughly $827,468 was spent. So there was some carryover that we brought into the allocation that was made through, get your acronym books ready, ARP, EANS, GEAR funds. Allocated the $6 million for the next 3 summers. We added that overage in. So then that takes us over to the chart on the left-hand side. The total payments that we made was roughly $2.8 million. The funds we had designated, roughly $2.4, which is a difference or an overage of about $422,000. When we look at our weeks of participation, starting about week 3 or 4, we began to communicate regularly with KSDE leadership about here's what we've spent, here's what's remaining, here's what we've spent, here's what's remaining in terms of goals to absolutely expand, grow, and maximize this program. And we all reached a point where we almost decided not to do week 11 because we had really kind of reached that point. And our goal was to stay within, but we also knew this was an opportunity to invest and decide what do we do next. So as we looked at averages and we guessed going into week 11, we guessed wrong, but in a really positive way. That difference that you see nearly can be accounted for in just the week 11 expenses that were paid to vendors, which tells us families took that opportunity before school began to do one last thing together, and we see that as an investment. As we move forward into the next few summers of planning, we will be able to take deeper dives into this data, make and receive recommendations with KSDE, and determine what does this tell us about the travel opportunities, the family experiences, the educational experiences that kids have and could have. So we're really excited about where we landed, and very excited to continue the analysis and then the process of thinking about these upcoming years as well.
And this is what everyone tells us, whether they're talking through the app or whether they're calling us on the phone or whether they're talking to the ticket takers at the venues. Thank you very much. And so on behalf of those hundreds of thousands of people, I do thank you. And for the opportunity to work on this project, it's been great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sherry Rivey with the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks, and I was able to help out with this event, but didn't originally plan to speak, so bear with me. First off, we're just going to kind of follow the itinerary of what we did throughout the day that we had the students and their families. We had 26 families, 29 tents, and 105 total participants that attended. At check-in, each family received a cooler and a sleeping bag. The sleeping bags were provided by Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks, and the coolers were donated by Coleman. The first thing we did, we had the welcome. Dr. Randy Watson with the Kansas Department of Education spoke, Miss Kansas spoke, and then Linda Landerman, our Parks Director, spoke. Each shared a little bit about the importance of the event, and Miss Kansas shared about her platform. The next activity was the Greenbush activities, and Alicia Cole with Greenbush organized the first round of activities. Alongside of her were 3 educational professionals, and they each gave a lesson in nocturnal animals. After that, we had the KDWP activities. Kyle Hover, our park manager, was the one in charge of those. He organized his staff, volunteer, and some Corps of Engineers staff, and they offered 5 different afternoon activities. Camp participants had 3 hours to rotate through these different activities, and you can see the ones that we participated on in here. It was a rather hot day, so a lot of people really enjoyed that splash pad there at Milford. After that, we had supper. The participating families returned to the campground, and we prepared them elk burgers, hot dogs, potato salad, baked beans, and cookies. For the evening, we did a live animal presentation. It included 3 owls, and participants were able to get a upfront visual and interacted with each of these different species. And that was done with the Milford Education Center. After that, some more kits were handed out. Those were prepared by our staff, and then the families took turns preparing the s'mores over an open fire. And as the sun went down, families gathered on blankets and chairs on the hillside, and they prepared for their outdoor movie. The big screen played Furry Vengeance, which is a family comedy that displays some mischievous actions of some local forest animals. And we also served popcorn during that movie. After the movie, families gathered back and they went to sleep. And then in the morning, we served them breakfast. And we prepared sausage and egg burritos with fruit. And then the families were encouraged the rest of the time to spend in our state park and enjoy what we have to offer. Thank you very much for having me.
Morning, everyone. Adam Smith with Exploration Place. As you probably know, we are a science and technology center in Wichita. I sometimes say we're on the Arkansas River, but as this photo shows, we might more accurately say we're in the Arkansas River. And our mission whoops, let's bring that back. Sorry about the slide. Inspiring a deeper interest in science and technology through creative and fun experiences for all. It used to say for all ages, and last year our board changed the mission statement to say for all, and it was to re-emphasize and recommit us as an organization to serve our entire community. Sunflower Summer last year was a big deal for Exploration Place. 19,000 people came in the first summer, and I've spent the last 12 months telling my board and my staff and pretty much anyone I talk to that of all of the pandemic response programs, and we've engaged with many of them through different agencies, unquestionably Sunflower Summer was the most effective. And I want to thank you for your quick response last summer. You're a fairly large organization, and it is, in my life's experience, unusual to see a large organization respond so quickly and so effectively. And that told me a lot about your culture. So thank you for nurturing an organization that was able to do that. And thank you to the staff and all that were involved, because it gets people out, gets families out together, traveling together, learning together. It is a very effective program. And with a little bit of more time, last summer, I think it was a scramble for everyone. And as has already been mentioned, just communicating the opportunity is one of the biggest factors. But with a little bit more time, we were able to plan this year a promotional campaign where we could educate our community that this opportunity existed for them. So this is an example of some digital marketing that we put together. You may not know this, but Google gives nonprofits like ours up to $10,000 per month of free advertising, but it's really complicated. You have to be very well organized. So having that time allowed us to exploit that Google opportunity, and that really helped with awareness, I think. By the raw numbers, this summer was exceptional. I think the weather helped a little bit. We're an indoor attraction, and the heat we had this summer drove a lot more people indoors than normal. But as you can see, over the 79 days of the program, we're averaging almost 600 people per day through the Sunflower Summer program alone. Something I want to mention is that membership's a big part of Exploration Place. We have thousands of families and members, and we did a promotion this summer with Sunflower Summer. One of the things that the app can do is you can put a special offer in there for people. So we made it possible to buy a membership at Exploration Place for $42.50, so it's half price. And as you can see, we sold 1,424 through that program. What that means is that over the next 12 months, those families, they're going to come back. Each one of our members visits on average 8 times per year. So the impact of Sunflower Summer for us was not just in the summer, but it will actually double as we go through the rest of the year. The photos, by the way, we unveiled a new exhibit this summer called Health Inside Out. It's a health education exhibit, getting kids to understand their bodies and learn how to respect them and the science behind them. That photo in the middle is you remember that game called Whack-A-Mole? We bought a couple of those and converted it. It's called Whack-A-Virus. And I think that's going to be the most popular exhibit at Exploration Place for a long time. That got a lot of usage this summer. But there's a good educational message in there relative to vaccines and the science of vaccines. We wanted the program to be the highest quality experience. So at a place like ours, sometimes we could just let people in and then try and sell them a ticket to watch the live science show or the movie. But we did this as a combination. Everybody that came to Sunflower Summer was able to experience the whole of Exploration Place, our wonderful dome movies and our live science shows. And I want you to understand that from our perspective, this is the most effective diversity, equity, and inclusion program that we have ever done. The diversity of audience that Sunflower Summer brought in was really palpable to me and my staff. That there is a level of access that free admission brings that I think is very helpful in what we're all trying to accomplish with DEI. So I did want to just flag that because the particular impact of that was so strong. So really, I just wanted to conclude by saying thank you. We feel a lot of the impact that we have as an organization is at an inspiration level. The kids are often only with us for 2 or 3 hours, but sometimes we can change a life by getting them interested and fascinated in something. We're trying really hard to keep our there are certain communities really underrepresented in STEM, both ethnic and social economic background, girls, etc. We're trying to keep those kids in the game for as long as possible, and programs like this really help us to accomplish that. So looking forward to next year. We're just finishing making a movie that's going to, for our Dome Theater, that is an aerial tour of the whole of Kansas, and there's a beautiful shot of a sunflower field in there. So hopefully next year can be a wonderful Sunflower Summer too. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, not that we haven't enjoyed all these presentations, but I think this is the one you all have been waiting on, so.
Close enough. Can we go a little closer? Maybe? There you go. All right. You can go first or grandma?
Okay, I guess I'm first. Hi, my name is Lori Kirsten, and I'm from Wichita, Kansas. And I'm here today with my grandson, Parker, to share about the Sunflower Summer application and why we enjoyed using it. I was asked by Parker's parents to enrich his learning through the summer while he was out of school. Of course, we're going to work on math and reading and writing and science, but I'm also a believer that a lot of learning can take place outside of the classroom. Due to COVID, Parker missed out on opportunities to go on field trips while he was at school, and so I wanted to give him those experiences this past summer. Due to the cost of several of these attractions, though, we would be limited to which ones and how many we could visit. Then I was watching the news and was excited to hear about the Sunflower Summer app. I immediately downloaded the app, and we began deciding which ones we wanted to visit. It meant we could go to many more attractions than we had thought. For some of the attractions, we learned our concepts before we visited, and others we just went and learned there. It was so much fun to watch Parker get so excited about learning new things firsthand. The look on his face, the reactions to new experiences, and the questions he had are a priceless memory we will always share. The joy of a butterfly landing on his shoulder, the discovery of artwork that encouraged painting his own picture, the giggles from watching the ducks scurry to get food we were trying to feed the turtles, the smiles from petting stingrays, and the cheers from landing his rocket on the moon will always have a special place in our heart. We visited several places, including Botanica, Sedgwick County Zoo, the Great Plains Nature Center, Mid-American All-Indian Center, Museum, Old Cowtown Museum, the Field Station Dinosaurs, the Cosmosphere, Wichita Sedgwick County Historical Museum, the Kansas Aviation Museum, Exploration Place, Kansas Wildlife Exhibit, and the Wichita Art Museum. We learned so much at these attractions that it encouraged us to visit some that were not on the app. We went to the Wichita State and Ulrich Museum of Art, the Eagle Valley Raptor Center, the Buffalo Park Splash Pad, Harvest Pool, Coates Museum of Art, Pawnee Prairie Park, and the Museum of World Treasures. After our time with you today, we are also excited to add the Kansas Capitol to our list. We want you to know that this program provided the opportunity to learn about our state and about many other science, history, and art concepts. It also created memories that we will always treasure. Thank you so much for making that possible. We encourage you to continue the program so the children of Kansas can experience the same fun, and learning that we were blessed to receive.
Hi, my name is
There you
Hi, my name is Parker
go. Closer.
Kirsten, and I live in Wichita, Kansas. This summer we went to 12 different fun places using the Sunflower app. I really like the most of the places that we went, but my favorite place was the Comosphere because I like space. And also I learned that the moon is not a planet. Some other things I learned was art was made by people, and you can make out of whatever you want. You can also see art in nature. Landing the plane is hard to do, and some planets are called planes are called biplanes. Thank you so much for creating the app and letting us go to these things for places for free.
Well, thank you. I was going to ask Parker what his favorite place was, but he already told us that. So.
Very good. You already answered his question.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you all of you for your participation, and those of you that represented venues, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to do that. Now, the thing that I like most about this process is that it gives people that don't have resources the opportunity to participate, and as we talked about equity, it provided that equity. Now, we had a certain finite amount of money that it appears to me that if this grows at the rate it is fast, this time we're out at the end of next year or very close to that. And this is maybe an unanswerable question, but I think this is worth replicating. How do we do that? And probably nobody has the answer, but I think we ought to at least start that discussion because this provides a valuable service to people of Kansas who would not have that opportunity otherwise.
There is an answer to the question. I just don't know that we know it yet. We know that there are resources allocated for the next few summers, and how we go about doing that and controlling what we can control in terms of dates and times, locations, but also keeping it open and new and fun and accessible is the balance we always want to keep. And so as I've said before, we're excited to further dig into the data, visit additionally with KSDE leadership and make some determinations on do we go all in on this next summer? Do we try and do things a little bit different to make the experiences last longer? But we feel confident that we're in a really great position to do amazing things no matter what that decision is.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that, and I really hope that we can continue this well into the future. So.
Absolutely.
I want to thank all of you for your participation. This is extremely exciting, and we hope to see you annually. Anything else, members? And of that 100 and, what is it, 18,000, 2 of those are my grandchildren. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We have as a receive item the recommendation from Acacia concerning changes into their policy related to, well, we all know what we're talking about, the changes of the policy related to classification. That information was presented to us in the past. At this point, we'll either open the discussion or accept a motion. Michelle.
Thank you, Chairman Porter. I've been making a lot of calls, received a lot of emails. It seems like to me, it's a blanket approach. And every time I get an email, it goes back to 2 or 3 schools in the whole state. It's like it keeps coming back to a metro area, 2 or 3 schools, and instead of addressing the 3 schools, which are maybe just 2 schools that are the problem, maybe even 1 school, it seems like if you can just move those 3 or 2 schools up the class, which they've agreed to do, that would solve, even the people that were like, well, that's thoughtful, and if they would do that, that'd be great. So they're saying if you're going to vote no, then those 3 schools or those 2 schools need to be addressed. If you're going to vote yes, then I looked at every school it's going to affect negatively, and some of them had to do with academics, like a debate team would be punished for their success. And so I thought, okay, well, as a board, I'd think, okay, I need to go and address the areas in the state where we're having the most issues or the most problems. Because the multiplier is going to affect smaller schools that are being penalized for their success. And something that their whole school is going to be bumped up for rather than just for that activity. Unless I'm misunderstanding something. If it's based off that activity, like let's say I win 5 cross-country championships in a row, so the next, something has to happen there that I can't continue to win those, and that I have the whole school gets bumped up. I guess I'm not sure about that. That doesn't make any sense. The whole school gets bumped up because of one sport or one activity or one like debate or bowling or whatever. Can someone clarify that for me?
I would lean to Dina and Jim a little bit, but I believe the answer is yes. The multiplier looks at each of those activities and says if you achieve state level championship in 5 consecutive years, then the multiplier kicks in.
And I also believe that the answer is yes.
So the entire school goes up. The entire school class, it's bumped up to a higher class.
Whenever it was presented to us, I believe that was explicitly stated that way. Is that right, Dina?
That is correct. It's, for example, Sacred Heart and Salinas won in their classification for golf, the golf championship for several years. It's over 5 years, actually. And if this goes into effect, their football, their volleyball, the girls' program, even though it's the boys' golf team, the girls' golf team, everybody will have to move up a classification. And that negatively affects. So
when I called each of these schools, each one of them said they would move up. Because if they voted for the multiplier, they knew it would, the detrimental damage it would do to these smaller schools like she's talking about. They knew that would happen. So if they were to vote for that, then they're punishing those smaller schools. My solution would be, if I were on board, I'd say, you have to move up. You three or you two or however that works out, need to move up a class. And then if they would not do that, it's like, well, you'll have to find you'll have to find another means to go up against competition, because it seems like it's one sport too. It seems like keeps coming back to one sport and maybe two or three schools in a big metro area. And now we have, when I talked to Mr. Foffick, now we have the open enrollment next year, which we already have schools. I've been hearing rumors that there's already people wanting to pull from public school to public school. So I'm thinking, now we're going to be picking from each other. And I just think it's either table it and wait and see how that all works out, or you address the three schools that keep coming up in the multiple emails. It all goes back to the same three schools.
Okay, thank you. Ann?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me get this back up. Just to have legitimate start of debate, I'll make a motion that the Kansas State Board of Education approve the amendment proposed by the Kansas State High School Activities Association to KSA 72-7114.
Okay, the motion has been made. Is there a second to the motion? Melanie seconds the motion. Now, discussion. Go ahead, Ann.
Thank you. I'm really torn about it as well, but I don't think it's our job to second-guess Keisha. We're not really in charge of Keisha. I mean, this is kind of an anomaly that we even get involved, I think, in looking at their regulation proposals. I don't know why we do that. But even though I'm torn, and the other thing I'll throw out too is that I know I got a lot of emails from my school saying the majority ruled, and X number of your schools voted for this, but government's not really, the way it's designed here, a democracy. It's a representative republic. And it is the job of those who were elected to look out for the minority and not just vote the way the majority wants. But I think in this case, I'm not going to second guess them. They've known about all these things we're talking about here for years, and a majority of the members, and it is a member organization, a member-run organization, majority of the members voted for this. And we don't have the final say-so anyway. They've still got to go through the legislature. So I will be voting to send the will of the Keisha members forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Betty?
Thank you. First of all, it is my understanding from the presentation that while this was a solution that was presented to us, they do have the option of going back and coming up with something that's more palatable. So it's not just the perspective that maybe they brought us the best of what they could do. I understand also that ours is not to second guess, but if we agree with them, yes, we vote for it. If we don't, and we feel like maybe there's something better that they can come up with by voting against this, it gives them the opportunity to go back to the drawing board. I don't necessarily feel that just because this is the solution that was presented by them, that it's the best solution for all. And as Michelle had said, we have to take into consideration the entire state, not just a small few. So with that being the case, and not trying to second guess them, but I would like to see them go back to the drawing board and work on this so that it's more of a balanced approach. And for that reason, I won't be supporting it.
Okay, thank you. Melanie?
Thank you, Chairman Porter. I agree with Ann that it's not our job, and Betty, that it's not our job to second guess Keisha. Can they do better? Yes, and I believe that they should do a lot more than this. But it's taken a decade for this to get to us. So I think that it's important that we take the steps that we can right now. The students that I talk to, when I ask them, is this about winning? Is this about playing? And they said, this is about not getting killed when you walk on the field. This is walking into a match knowing that you're going to go down hard. The other thing that I would really like to see Keisha addressing that's not part of this proposal is the recruiting that happens. That's not supposed to happen. But after our last board meeting, there was a post that made the rounds on social media about a player who's coming from the Missouri side to play for a private school that's at the center of this debate. And so I think that that's something that also needs to be taken into consideration. I will be voting to support this. To Ann's point, I don't think it's our job to second guess, but I would like to see them doing more. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too am torn because of the unfairness of some schools who have, we know from anecdotal information, recruit. And they're recruiting D1 school folks, so they definitely will win. And so therefore the kids in their classification that play them feel they are being killed. And if you look at the scores, it kind of backs that up. I will tell you what Betty was talking about is actually kind of what has happened. It was a proposal from a board member that brought this to the executive committee first and then the board of directors. There was no general overall discussion of this issue. So if it's been, there was no formal kind of research or committee work around it, which does concern me. I also have a concern of when you send this to the legislature, which is where it goes next, what will they do? We have lots of examples of what they've done with a lot of things, and I'm not sure that this will be the only thing they deal with within that those two words probably will not be the only thing that gets changed. But I want you to understand that that's more of an explanation of the way I will vote. I'm not meaning to convince you to vote differently than you were going to when you started this discussion. But I think in all fairness, you do need to know that this was the proposal from a group probably of 4A schools from one league and not an overall discussion from a lot of different people, although there was a study group that came up with kind of that discussion of what, because Jim served on it, so that there was, in a sense, a committee, but the discussion, the broader sense of discussion, I'm not sure that really occurred. And I'm not sure that that's the process that Keisha normally would go through. I think the way it was handled was probably more the way that it is normally dealt with. But it was just a proposal that was brought to us as, hey, here it is, take it or leave it. And most folks didn't have the background knowledge, or I think we know more about it than we did at the beginning. So it's a bigger deal than just 4A schools being killed by in basketball competitions by 1 or 2 schools. So.
Thank you. Janet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This issue, I think I brought this up at the last meeting, came up when I served on Acacia, which has been many years ago. No one knew what to do with it, frankly. And so I compliment the Acacia for taking it up. I mean, at least they came up with something, you know. And we've always known this, and when they first presented it, I thought, first of all, I was disappointed because I didn't think they went far enough. Because by representing the low socioeconomic schools, so many of them, there's a difference, you must understand, between the lowest socioeconomic and the more affluent districts. And I agree I know about what Melanie said is true. I've heard the rumors. I mean, I know that it's true. I've heard the rumors that some of the schools, at least one district I know of that I've heard about their recruiting, trying to get students to come, public schools, trying to get students to come to them. So Open Borders is going to change this. If that happens, I think it will become all over. And so I was disappointed at first, and my first thought was, no, I want to go back and get it straight. But then I got to thinking, okay, this is a beginning. So I mean, at least we're doing something, and we need to do something, because I know it's a challenge. So at first I was a no, and then I was a yes. And then I talked to some people, and I was informed that that what would happen if we approve it and we send it to the legislature, as Dina said, we have no clue what they're going to do. So it could be ugly, And then I get all these emails, and the one that the majority of my districts voted for it again also, And so right now, let me just tell you that I really don't know how I'm gonna vote. So I wanna hear from each of you, and I want somebody to convince me, but I really would like to know. I've had different people tell me they tell me there's a difference of opinion. Can the legislature do that, or can they not do that? I mean, that I don't know. That's kind of one of my biggies, so. Anyway, but I'd like to hear other votes, and I can't tell you I'm gonna vote yes, or I'm not gonna tell you I'm gonna vote no. I'm telling you, I wanna hear from you. Thank you.
I think the assumption is that the legislature is the next step.
But will they can they go further? Can they do more than what they have?
I suppose they can do whatever they want to. Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That's a legitimate concern.
Yeah. To echo the Vice Chair's statement, that is one thing that does concern me. Anything that goes across the street, legislature, you don't know what you're going to get out of it. It's the state's largest sausage factory, and what goes in doesn't always come out. And that concerns me, because there could be some good things that happens over there, and they do good things. There are good things that come out of there, but they can also do some damaging things. And it's how much risk versus the reward there is, and applying some thought to that. But a big piece that I looked at, and I talked with Mr. McNeese when he kind of just, I think off the cuff, just asked kind of where I wanted. I said, don't hurt my schools. I have rural private schools that aren't creating the issue, because the private schools in my district aren't the issue. And when I looked at this, I was comforted to see that they were going to put a cap that you can only go up one classification, correct? You can't move up two, it's just one. And so there's a limit, there's a cap to it. So if you're a large 1A private school, you won't be competing at 3A, which is a big deal. Because a lot of those schools throughout the season in their leagues compete against schools that are a class above them. I looked at all my private schools, and in their league that they compete in, a majority of the league that they participate in is full of schools that are a classification above. I.e., if they're a 2A private school, they compete predominantly against 3A schools all season, 1As and 2As, and vice versa. And that's a choice that they make. Now, I know we're talking about state competition, and there's a different context. This is choice, and state championships have a little different connotation to it. But they're used to that level of competition all season long. It's not new. It'd be something that they're subjected to all year long. So in terms of the equity piece, that is something that stood out to me. And then I looked at the vice chairs and position of low income schools. And I asked the commissioner, and you can share it if you want to, I don't care, but Keisha put together the socioeconomic distribution of state championships among free reduced lunch among schools. And just off the cuff, schools that had 50% or higher free reduced lunch won 50 championships in the last 5 years, which is pretty indicative of the share of schools that are there. I know it's not perfect, it's less, but it's as close, it's within that margin. So poor schools do perform well in terms of the level of, or the proportion of membership within Keisha. Because equity is large. I also struggle with making rules and singling out people to create special rules for just certain schools. This has to be a statewide approach for equity. For fairness, because we don't make specific rules for specific people. That gets in a dangerous road, and that is a concern I have. So an approach to create a single rule for a single person makes it difficult for me to go that route. But that's not what's before us today. It is about what's best for the state, and I was a very hard no last month before the hearing, very hard no. Until the Mr. Flaflick shared that stat about the amount of championships won by private schools compared to the proportion of membership. And it's way out of proportion. And that concerns me. I'm not trying to punish schools for doing well. It's about fairness and equity in all of our activities. As a coach at a 2A school, granted I do debate forensics, not athletics, different world. Our debate championship is 3-2-1A. I compete against 3A schools all the time. In our tournaments, we compete against 6A, 5A schools all of the time in my activity that I coach in. That's not new. Now, again, I know my activity is different from an athletic activity. Athletic ability has a different competition. I know that. But our tennis team competes 3-2-1A, and we're a small 2A school. A lot of our activities are 2-1A, 3-2-1A, because a lot of small schools don't have TIS programs, that sort of thing. So I don't know exactly how I'm voting yet, but those are thoughts and things that I've looked at and reasons either way of how I will vote the way I will vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Michelle?
Thank you, Chairman Porter. I just go back to the multiplier would move these 3 schools or 2 schools up a class, which is where they compete most of the year, and then they go back down to their 4A class. So I'm thinking, if they're willing to move up, it's not going to affect all these little private schools that are around there that I keep getting emails from that it will affect. So we're going and addressing, if you're looking at a big picture and you say, okay, where's our problem? Oh, here it is right here, rather than put a blanket over the whole thing, we're going to the source of the problem. And every email I got came to a metro area, 2 private schools, 2.5, maybe mostly 1, but in the metro area. And I thought, wow, well, they're willing to do this, willing to move up a class and be where they probably should be, even though they have 890 kids at a school, they're moving up to compete against 2,300, 2,600 class schools. They've been doing that all year. So at the end of the year, at the end of the season, they go back down to 4A, which they need to be staying up in the 5A or whatever that next class is. It seems like it was 5A. So that just seems to me like that's our solution, rather than hurting these other schools where I'm getting all these emails from. That you're going to punish our golf team, you're going to punish our debate team. It move us up, and we have 16 kids on our boys basketball team. I mean, it was just that was a school in your area, in your area. So I thought, I just feel like we're putting a blanket rule, and it's going to cause more issues when we're only dealing with just a few schools in a metro area.
Thank you. Ann?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I totally get the concern about the legislature, but that's just part of the process. It doesn't matter what they send us. You could send it back and they could craft it the way you want, and it comes back to us, and it still goes to the legislature, and they're going to do what they're going to do. So I don't think what happens at the legislature can really be our concern, because it doesn't matter what they send us. That's the next step. And I think characterizing this as punishing schools, or that they're going to, get beat up all year, isn't true. I know Ben has a list of who, we've all gotten the same letter from a small Catholic school. It's a 2A school complaining we're going to get beat up. Almost every other team they play all year is a 3A school. Hayden High School, probably, I'm not sure what class they are, but they play much bigger schools all year long. But they're not one of the 7, I don't know which 7 exactly, private schools would get bumped up. But it doesn't change who you play all year. It only changes if you go to state. So it's not like you're going to play a whole different set of schools all year long. It's only if you go to state. So again, they made this decision, they sent it to us, and I think we just send it to the next step and see what happens. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Janet?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question. I don't know who's going to answer it, but somebody can answer it, hopefully. I've heard what Michelle heard about the school being volunteering to move up to the higher level. But then I also, well, that's good. And then I also heard, well, that can't happen. They can't, that's not allowable. So I need an answer to that. Thank you.
So I'll attempt to answer that, and again, I'll look to Jim and Dina, who sat on the board. So I think there's two answers to that question. They could not do that by a member vote. It would have to come to you and then have to go to the legislature, because the only thing CASA can do is determine classifications by size. So that's number one. Number two, that offer was not on the table until after the vote. So I mean, that's what CASA purported to you. So those are the two things. Did I say anything? I'm just believing what Bill said. So that proposal would have to come to you, and the proposal to move voluntarily up as a consideration was not proposed until after the vote. that occurred, correct, Dina, Jim? Yeah.
Yes. The only thing would be not to deal with classifications, but deal with the issue, which is really the recruitment, which they can do that. Keisha could do that themselves, because that's not in a statute. Like, this is because it's in statute, how classifications for sports or for activities will take place. And so that's the reason it first comes to us, because that's the process, and then to the legislature.
Okay, Betty.
So my understanding, once again, is there were some viable solutions that were offered after the fact. That's were, let me finish my question.
Not really. I'm just saying that that's one thing they could do. It's not been discussed past the proposal.
Right. Now, let me.
So that's just coming from me, that I can see now that they could deal with that issue in a way without dealing with classification.
Okay. And I probably could help a little bit, Dina. My question was really specifically related to something that Randy was saying, that there were some ideas that were, they looked at after the fact, but because it had already, the proposal had already been set up, those things were not being considered, but could be considered if they had to review this. Clarification on what you were saying.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess the easiest thing for me to say is, because I'm on record as voting no on this consistently. I've been on both sides of the aisle and been accused of cheating on and recruiting on both sides, public schools and private schools. And I'm going to vote no on this because I think we can come up with a better solution. I don't know what that solution is right now, but I do know going forward that this harms other schools and doesn't solve the problem. That's my opinion. I have heard from others who don't share my opinion, and I respect and value their both their opinion and their experiences. There's a lot of emotion in these experiences that we have, whether you're on the private side or the public side. Thank you.
I have not spoken because I don't want anybody to be influenced by what I'm going to say. I want everybody to make the decision that they think is best for them. I don't like binary choices, yes or no. I've got the same concerns with this that everybody else that have expressed. I also believe that Keisha has a process, and we shouldn't. I don't feel we should interfere with it, so I'm going to vote yes. But I don't want anybody here to vote yes because I'm going to. It's I don't want to influence anybody because I want everybody to do what they think is best, and I've got the same reservations that have been expressed. And that's the reason I will do so. Melanie.
Thank you, Chair Porter. I just felt obligated to kind of remind those three words that we're talking about that would need to go across the street to the legislature, and the legislature would have to change the law so that Keisha has the opportunity to take into account not only attendance, but attendance and other means. And so I want to understand that by passing this, what we're really doing is allowing that change to take place, and Keisha can still come back and say, you know what, we're going to make yet another change and another change. But without those 3 words in the law, they can't change anything. Am I understanding clearly? It's not that we're voting on exactly what Keisha's doing. We are allowing them some flexibility by passing this.
That's correct. You're voting to alter the sole decision of school classification beyond size.
Thank you.
I see nothing else. Therefore, we're going to vote. The motion was the Kansas State Board of Education approve the amendment proposed by the Kansas State High School Activity Association. There are no other questions. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. The motion passes. I would like for us to go on record. No, we'll just leave it at that. Janet has a motion for executive session. This is precipitated by the fact that we brought up several things in the bill that affect education, and I have asked our attorney for, and he sent us information related to what our options are. We are not going to make any decisions today, but what we're going to do is we're going to have a report from our attorney. We're going to discuss some things that we may want to, where we may want to react, but we will not make any decisions until next month whenever we are having our legislative discussions. So, we're going to be here for an hour. And so Janet will have the motion, and please, let's start at 10:50. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the Kansas State Board of Education recess into executive session to discuss the following matters. For consultation with an attorney, which could be deemed privileged with the attorney-client relationship. The session will begin at 10:50 for 1 hour and for 60 minutes, and we'll resume in here in the board room at 12:50. No, it's 10:50, 11:50, 11:50. Sorry. Then we would like to ask that Mark Ferguson, Randy Watson, I wrote these all down, Scott Gordon, Ben Proctor, and Craig Newen-Swanter join us in this executive session.
That motion's been made. Is there a second to that
The
motion?
right ones.
Ann seconds that motion. Discussion. All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed, motion carries. We'll be back in a few minutes. Turn your mic. Okay, we are back in open session. We are going to have at our next meeting, we will have an extensive discussion on our legislative priorities, and we'll use the information we learned about our options today as part of that study. If we need to have additional executive session to discuss other options and other issues, we very well may do that in conjunction with a request that's already been made. That being said, we are in recess at this point, and we will reconvene with the Board of Regents at 1:30. Hold it. Now it's official.